Hi there, this is Kimile, and you're listening to Heal with Kimile podcast. Have you ever messed up, just fucked up so badly, and you're like, how the heck did I miss that? Well, that's happened to me, and I'm going to tell you a story that's gone on since 2015, and it's finally come to an end, and I went through quite a lot with a former client of mine. There's a true story about a man named Paul Bryant. Paul J. Bryant. Look him up online. You will see a convicted pedophile. I met him in 2015, and he came in as a regular client, referred to me by another client that was a good guy. And I didn't have any reason to really doubt that, he was an upstanding human being in the community. Well, he was in the middle of a really messy divorce and also had been accused of being a molester by two of his children. I didn't quite know the full details of that. I probably saw him maybe a dozen times in the course of 3 or 4 months, and I get a phone call from jail. Collect call, of course. And I'm thinking, oh, what do I do? And I didn't really know what to do. And look, and in my position as a counselor, I know that there are false accusations made typically against fathers in our state, and there's over 66,000 cases filed against dads saying they're child rapists, they're abusers, etc., because the moms want to gain leverage in the divorce. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So I kind of wondered if it was something like that. He didn't present to me like a pedophile, but again, I spent maybe a dozen times with him, so maybe 12 hours. But what happened was he gets arrested, and these alleged molestations had happened, probably 15 years prior to that, so in 2000. So really, really random that he would get arrested for molestations that happened so far in the past. And why are they coming out now? During the middle of a horrible, ugly divorce with their mother. And these were two children that he adopted. They weren't his biological kids. So it did logically could, make sense that these kids were on the side of their mother and they wanted to get even with him and help mama and yada, yada. So I take his phone call and I talk to him. He's in jail. Again, very kind, very sweet guy, it seemed. And he asked me to help him. So I had connections and I called a few good lawyers I knew, one very prominent one in our state, and he took the case. And this guy said, I need you to help me pay for the thing. And I wasn't going to pay for my own money, but I had access to his home. He had over 100 guns. I sold his weapons. I sold his guns for him to make sure he had money for his attorneys to fight for his freedom. I basically took on running this guy's world while he was sitting in jail waiting for trial and couldn't bail out. He couldn't bail out. So his own father came in and talked to the judge and said to the judge, my son is as diabolical as Ted Bundy. Please, please, please do not give him bail. Well, he didn't get bail. So he was arrested, taken from his home, and sat there for 2 years straight. He had a lot of friends, a lot of people that really loved him and supported him. And I got to know a lot of his people, a lot of his friends. I was paying his bills. I actually had to move his home. I moved it to a storage unit while he was locked up. I talked to him routinely on the jail phones. I was working with his lawyers and I hired a private investigator, building his defense, basically. And there wasn't any evidence. The truth is, it was 15 years ago, at that time, and there wasn't any evidence of being a child predator. I looked through his property. I had access to everything in his home. I, kind of side-eyed, looked around, and is there anything that I would consider a rape kit, so to speak, right? And I didn't see a rape kit, but there were some fake badges. I thought he was more in the military than he was. He had all these war stories, and he was the hero. But I realized later that was stolen valor type stories. So, long story short, I'm working with his legal team that I had put together, and they were a great team. If I was in jail, I'd want these men working on my behalf. And all these investigations getting done, and we were putting together this defense. And, one of the reasons that Paul Bryant said that one of his children accused him of being a pedophile is because, they had allegedly raped somebody in high school. They were a lot older than this girl, and they had raped her. And so that's why, it was a lie. And because Paul was inclined to rat him out and kind of get him in trouble, He preempted this and said, my dad's a bad guy, not me. So, and again, the divorce was allegedly the motivation for all this too. So as we get down to the wire and we have 2 weeks before trial, I'm called to the office of the attorneys, the defense counsel. And I walk into this huge conference room, and it's this really long conference table, lawyerly, all these books everywhere, man, like just piles of documents and recordings of over 100 interviews that were done by this former FBI agent who I hired. He's a PI. And all of these things that had amassed. I mean, this is where the $85,000 went, right? So I'm, sitting there with them, and one of the lead attorneys said to me, Kimile, we have no defense. And I'm looking at the table like, well, what's all this? What are you talking about? What have we been doing for 2 years? And he said, well, we thought we were building a defense from what Paul has told us. And what Paul has told us is all a lie. Whoa. So, okay, now what? And what was the lie? What do you mean the lie? So allegedly, the son that had called him a predator basically was supposedly a rapist in high school. Well, in picking up the yearbooks from that high school that were taken down to Paul numerous times, by the way, in the last few months, Paul was supposed to find the girl that was allegedly raped and circle her picture so that, the attorneys could call her and the family, whatever, and get her story and just kind of validate that the son had been a predator to her, right? Well, that was the lie. And so Paul had in his possession multiple times that yearbook. And then the attorneys would come down, oh, I can't find her, I'm not sure. Just wouldn't circle her picture. Well, finally, he circled her picture and closed the book up, handed it to the attorneys, and the attorneys took the book and they left. And they were doing their job. So they get a hold of this girl. By the way, she is not 4 years younger than the accuser. She was the same age. They dated, consensual relationship all through high school. So this wasn't some sort of girl that was victimized and hurt by the accuser. This was the family knew her well. And she had just got off a mission, by the way. So she wasn't likely to come in and be a hostile witness for the defense. That's not going to happen. So this whole defense was based on a lie. And then as we looked into other interviews and people would say, Paul Bryant's a liar, we really didn't have anybody that would stand up and just, except for his buddies that were shooting buddies with him. And they did gun stuff with him. They were in the military with him. And so they knew him as a guy friend. They thought they knew his character. So did I. At this moment, John, the attorney, says to me, you have to go down to jail and sit with him today. And you need to convince him to take a plea deal. We've talked to the prosecutor and we can probably get a plea deal, but he's got to agree to this because if we go into trial, there is no defense. His defense is a lie. And the irony about this whole thing, Paul had continued to pay for cell phones that were not, they were dead. They were gone. They were old flip phones and stuff. But he kept paying for those phones every month to keep him alive for the text messages. And they're his family's old cell phones. His kids, his ex-wife, because there were some text messages that he could spin and he could use when they're in high school, that they were somehow confessing to something. It was really a stretch, which then you look at that and go, this guy's been preparing a defense for a long time. He knew that this day could come. And so he's covering his, bets here by making sure that he's got cell phones that he can point the finger at them and say, no, they're the ones doing whatever. Then there's a lot of detail here. This went on for years. Okay. So I go down to the jail and it's about 10 o'clock at night. They let me in and I'm with his divorce attorney who I had hired for him too. Really good attorney. And we're supposed to go in and talk to Paul and I've got to convince him he needs to take a plea deal. I don't know how he's going to respond, but we really were 2 weeks before trial. So there I am sitting in front of a man that I really don't know. Really, I never really spent a lot of time with him. And all that's separating me and him is a bulletproof glass. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, Paul, you really need to take a plea deal because you're going to go to jail. We don't have a defense. And he says to me, well, what have you done with all my money? I thought you hired, just tries to gaslight me into something like, what did you do wrong? And I look at him and I said, Paul, you lied. You lied and said that the accuser had hurt somebody, and because you were going to out him, he lied about you. This has been the defense the whole time. And now the truth is, that girl was the same age as him, right? You lied. You lied, right? Doubles down. No, what are you talking about? What have you guys done to me? He's the victim. He's the victim. And I spent 2 years of my life, okay, really trying to help this guy put together a defense and stuff. I think everyone's entitled to a defense, guilty or not. I think they're entitled to a defense, but I digress. It was this moment when I visibly witnessed the darkness come over somebody, and he just had this smirk on his face. And I'm looking into his eyes. I'm like, Paul, you've got to do that. You're not going to fare well. And they'll get out sooner if you take a plea deal. They're going to give you time served, 2 years time served, and you're out. And he was in the county lockup. He wasn't in prison. He was in county. So it wasn't as bad probably as prison could have been for him. But just the moment that I'm looking at him and he's looking at me, and I'm still in a little bit of denial, like, this guy didn't do that. There's no way. And the smirk comes across his face, and he's gotcha moment. Just the look said it all. Like, this man spent $80,000+. His stuff had to be moved out of his condo. All these attorneys, all these friends coming to court to support him. And I'm, carrying the torch and the battle cry to help him and keep him going and support him. And his, some of his family's there for him and friends, a lot of friends. All this energy because he's an innocent man. And I'm looking at him, and when he knows I know, I recognize that you're not innocent, are you? He couldn't help himself. He was just ready to brag or something. It was a moment I will never forget in my life. I'm sitting in front of pure evil. And just that smirk, and I felt totally played. I felt completely played by this guy. He got me. He totally got me. Had me working for him. A lot of people working for him. I wasn't getting paid nearly what I was worth at the time, etc. And all this effort and these great people that were trying to help this guy. He knew he was lying the whole time. And that's what you pick is, that kind of a defense that is so flimsy, it's going to fall apart. But what I realized, this predator, the goal for him was just keep the game going, keep everything in play, keep the lie going. And as long as he can live that lie and pretend to be somebody he's not, and everybody's rooting for him and championing him, that's the glee. That's what he lives for. That's the trick. That's the deception. That's the wolf in sheep's clothing. So he decides, I'll take the plea deal. He took the plea deal. Kind of had really no other option because the attorneys were like, well, we got 2 weeks. We can't start over. What are we going to do now? So he takes the plea deal. I'm the only one in the courtroom when he pleads guilty and admitted the abuse charges. And the other side, of course, hates Kimile. Oh, they hate me. Why wouldn't they? They don't know why I'm helping. I'm helping him because I'm getting paid for it, but also I believed he was innocent. And I see a lot of men get falsely accused of crap. So I'm, again, wrong. I'm totally wrong. So the minute I realized that he's duped me and used me, right? And I went along, I just hoodwinked. I went along. I was totally played. He knows I know now. Okay. And when someone like this, when a predator knows that you're onto them, he's going to target me. I'm now a threat. I'm now a problem for him. So the relationship radically changed, of course, because I realized who I'm dealing with. And I'm really grateful I was, there's no way he could have touched me or me him. We're behind, this bulletproof glass. But as I drove home that night, I just thought, oh my Lord, what have I done? What have I done, right? I was so wrong about this guy. I was so wrong about helping him. I live my life helping people that have been hurt by people like him. It just was a really shocking, traumatic thing for me to realize that I had been suckered by this guy. So as time went on, and this is in 2017 by this time, I pulled back, of course. I went to the hearing where he was time served sentence. He was going to be out within a few weeks. And he starts wanting me to go get his guns back, go get the guns that I had sold back. From most of it was friends and family and stuff that had purchased his precious gun collection. And I said, I can't do that. Paul, I can't do that. And I'm in the jail funds with him. I said, no, I'm not going to do that, Paul. Again, I had the keys to all his property. I mean, I'm the one in charge of his life, right? I stored his vehicles. I mean, there's so many things I did. It was insane. Look, if you were in trouble, you would want me running your life. I know. I ran his life. It's crazy. Did his taxes. I mean, I did everything. So stupid. But I'm listening to him and he says, you need to call my friends. I want to get my guns back. I said, Paul, I'm not going to lose my freedom because now you are a convicted felon. You have admitted to this. You're a felon and you're not going to get guns. You can't have guns. And I, for one, am never going to go back and get your guns from these people. So no, I no longer work for you. I'm not doing that. And the minute I told him no, and I think he knew that I couldn't do that, nor would I. It was kind of like setting me up for the breakup, so to speak. He went crazy on me. And I felt very threatened. I was in fear of my life. He sued me. He hired a lawyer. He sued me. When he got out, he had a dear friend in his life. And I basically said, I won't go through you, Paul. I'll go through your friend. And I did. Returned everything back to him and gave him his life back so he could start his life again that I had preserved for 2 years. So he got his life back because of me. But now the lawsuit comes in and I'm sued. I'm sued for, malfeasance and I didn't help him, whatever, all this crap. The stuff I did for this man was way overboard. So I had to hire a lawyer to defend myself, right? And to me, it was more of silencing me because his other attorneys that I had hired, his divorce lawyer, saying, you don't want to sue Kimile. She knows everything. She knows, what are you doing, dude? But he sued me. So I hired a lawyer. It went nowhere. I mean, basically we did some discovery and then because he quit responding, he just hired a lawyer to sue me. I had to spend money to hire a lawyer to defend myself, pull together all this evidence, all this discovery. And then he just kind of disappeared. His attorney couldn't find him, couldn't reach him. He quit paying him. Case dismissed. There was no legal case anyway, but he was just doing that to shut me up and harass me. And then I'm driving down the freeway. I'm getting in my lane to get home, and I've got this red truck right on my ass. I'm like, God, that guy's going kind of fast. I kind of, got out of the way. Well, he's following me. He followed me right to my house. And I pull in my driveway. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? He flies past my driveway, and I'm in a cul-de-sac, so he turns around and comes back and blares on the horn and gives me the bird. And oh my gosh, that's Paul Bryant. He had moved within 5 minutes from my home. So now he's up in my area and he's starting to do these things to harass me. Again, threatening me. I did not feel safe. He knows where I work. He knows where I live. And then I'm driving on my birthday a few months back to go to lunch with my daughter. And I'm past a red truck. And I'm like, oh, please, do not. That can't be. Oh, it was. It was Paul Bryant in his brand new red big truck. And he sees me and I'm in the carpool lane. Legally, I am legally in the carpool lane, just headed down to downtown. And he sees me and he starts getting over. He's 2 lanes to my right. He starts merging into the left lanes. I speed up. He's speeding up. He gets in the carpool lane right behind me, speeding and chasing me down. I'm like, oh, okay. And again, I'm terrified. So I'm getting as fast as I can. I'm getting out of that carpool lane. I feel cornered there, getting out of that lane. I'm headed to an exit. And I'm just about ready to hit my OnStar button to call the police. And I'm like, please, God, preserve me. And right in front of me is a highway patrol. Literally a car ahead of me. I'm like, really? What are they? So I get to the right lane, right lane over. I'm in the exit lane. He's in the second lane over the carpool. And then Paul's in the carpool lane, flying up to get to me. And I'm right behind the highway patrol. Paul couldn't see him, but as soon as this big truck passed, he sees me and he's getting over and he's out of control. You can just see him raging, standing on the gas and he's got his hands on the wheel and I'm right behind the highway patrol. I just kept looking on the road. I didn't want to give him the satisfaction of looking at him, but he stands on the brakes and the truck is jolting. I was hoping the highway patrol would see him. He didn't see him. And then he got back in the carpool lane and kept on going. So I'm saved then. I felt saved so many times. And it was just crazy. But I get to my lunch and I think until I call the police, well, he was chasing me. There's not much that can be done. And by the way, Paul had sued many other people. Like he got out of jail and sued a lot of people. He was just an angry, temper tantrum throwing asshole. And so he was suing people. Like he had all this money. Well, what I had to do was I had to make amends. My mea culpa began. And as soon as I realized I had been tricked and lied to and suckered by this guy, I reached out to his family. I called his children. I called his ex-wife. And I made amends. I have done free work for them. I've done therapy. I'm doing everything I can to make amends for helping this pedophile, basically. And so I went to his father. I apologized. I went to Paul's sisters. Anybody that I would talk to, even his friends, I said, this man is guilty. So I've spent since 2017, we're at 2025 now, getting to know the people that Paul hurt, that Paul has sexually abused, that Paul has lied to or betrayed. And I've met a lot of phenomenal, wonderful people. I wasn't going to let that stop me. And that wasn't my legacy. I wanted to make sure I cleaned up this mess that I had been tricked by this man. And I was abducted when I was 5. I was kidnapped when I was a little girl. I was with a guy just for the day, but I had that same trauma, that same feeling wash over me. I just felt abused all over again, right? And I know why that happened to me as a little girl, because that's my ministry. My miseries become my ministry. I help kids that have been abused sexually. And if I wouldn't have gone through that, I probably couldn't handle what I've heard in my practice, right? But I felt tricked and played again. And I was thinking, God, why did I go through? Why did I not catch this? How did I go along with this guy and help him out? And we all have a blind spot. I think I just wanted to believe that he was innocent. And I was going to help someone that was going through that. Bottom line, I needed that reminder of what my life was really about, my misery to my ministry moment. And I needed that reminder that there's so many people out there that are hurting from these kind of predators in their life. And I love, love, love the people that Paul Bryant had in his world. I have met so many people that are great people. And these kind of people, they're predators, they're wolf in sheep's clothing. And they surround themselves with the best people. So no one would ever suspect that they are the predator that they are. His ex-wife is a phenomenal, phenomenal person. And the family, everyone, credible, honest, good people. So they've become dear friends to me. I have great respect for what the kids have gone through and what they've survived. And I just see resilience everywhere. So I have done my best to make amends, and I will continue to do so and admit that I totally effed up. I was totally wrong about this guy. And that's the worst thing someone like me could ever go through, is being tricked and doing something to help someone who's hurting people, right? That's the last thing I ever want to do. So December 30th of 2024, just recently, Paul Bryant was facing more charges, and he was going to be sentenced to prison probably. He took his own life the morning that he was going to be sentenced. And he had a gun. Ironic, he was supposed to have guns, but he had a gun. Imagine that. And he used a gun to kill himself. So I felt free. Do I want anyone to commit suicide? No, I don't. But this man was a threat to me and people I love. And I was not going to, I was not going to be able to just feel free in my home or in my work. I was always looking over my shoulder, looking for red trucks, and he moved within 5 minutes from me. He was trying to get at me. So when I heard that news, I thought to myself, you know what? This is something that I actually can be, I guess, relieved that he has done that. He's no longer on this planet to torture me or anybody else. So if you have been harmed by a predator, by someone who's a criminal, and you're going through something like this, trust me, you're not alone. It happens to everybody. It happens to people in my profession. It happens to people, good people, and everyone gets tricked by someone like this. Everyone gets played, because we don't always know when someone's lying to us. And we want to believe in the good of people, right? I kind of put together a theme of what predators do. And predators, they will hide with good people. They are a wolf in sheep's clothing. They have great people around them. And the people around them are not predators. They're givers. Predators like this, they find givers. They find people that are trusting and innocent. He had girlfriends that had children. Okay. So this guy, Paul Bryant, was a prolific abuser, but he just comes across like just a decent, nice guy. And I feel like that everyone's kind of set free by him being off this planet right now. But these predators, they hide out with credible, high caliber people. And even the guy that referred me to Paul Bryant, really high caliber, good man. And again, everyone I talked to that knew Paul, these are attorneys, CPAs. They're just high caliber, good people. You just meet him and go, oh, what a great person, great human being. So he knew how to pick them. And then if he's associated with them, military people, then he's credible too. I know what he did. And then there's been 2 other cases that I've kind of worked on since. And these other predators have a similar theme. They hide out with good people. They gaslight. It's always turned around on you. They don't ever take responsibility. They're never accountable. And I remember the one time I tried to hold Paul Bryant accountable when I said, he was in my office and I said, okay, you've had 3 sessions and we're complaining about the ex-wife. Is there anything you can do or anything you're accountable for that you can shift your story about this? Because every time you're the victim, is there anything you've done? Oh, he couldn't do that. He couldn't be with that. And I remember he got up to leave and I said, you're running from yourself. You're not running from me. You're running from the truth. What is the truth, Paul? And he didn't come back and sit down. But that was a moment I probably should have went, something's off with this guy. But every other exchange with him was really pleasant, really good. But these people, they live their life to look good, right? And they always have these alignments with military or money, or they're always dropping names. Paul was dropping names all the time. Stolen valor, like he would tell his dad's actually a war hero. He would tell his dad's stories like they're his stories. Just not a good person. And there's so many law enforcement that have had run-ins with Paul Bryant in this state. Again, just take a look. And if you want online, you'll see who I'm talking about. But these predators also have a pattern of this deception. And they set up these narratives and stories and they lie until they can't lie anymore. But when they are caught lying, they will double down. And then you're an asshole for exposing their lies, or you're how awful you are for not believing me. They almost turn it on you that you don't, how could you think that of me? So there's a lot of tells, and I'm looking for the tells. Trust me, I never want to get hoodwinked or betrayed or tricked again to help someone who's a harmful person. So that's part of my story. I feel free. I'm grateful he's gone. And what I'm working on now is potentially a book about this with some other people. This has gone on for years, and this has really been always in the back of my mind. Is he going to shoot me? Is he going to kill me? Now I know that's not going to happen from him. If you'd like to sit down with me and talk about a story that you've got and you've gone through something like this, or you're stuck in something like this, I'd be happy to help. You're welcome to reach out to me at healwithkimile.com, HEALWITHKIMILE.com. Hey, thanks for listening. I'll be telling you guys more about this too. There's more stuff that's coming out. So yeah, thank you.